Yeah.
Everybody say. So Rabbi said we have a we moved yesterday. Oh,
Why not?
yeah. 1 second. Yeah. So Rabbi say I want to just 1 second. Let me just see 1 second. Yesterday we're gonna start from 4 lines down the Amud and let me tell you something. Rabbi Yehuda, we're starting 4 lines down the Amud Tezayin Amud Beis. 4 lines down the Amud Tezayin Amud Beis. You ready? So 4 lines down the Amud, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan says, Rabbi Yehuda, you have a shayla if you're allowed to have a suspended mechitza, which means a mechitza that's hanging down, but there's a space underneath it. Okay? Rabbi Yossi says in the Mishnah by Sukkah you could. Rabbi Yehuda says by Shabbat you could. Okay? Rabbi Yossi says Sukkah you could, and Rabbi Yehuda says by Shabbos you could have it. We want to know, do they agree with each other? Maybe Rabbi Yossi says Sukkah. Does Rabbi Yossi agree with Rabbi Yehuda by Shabbos? And does Rabbi Yehuda agree with Rabbi Yossi by Sukkah?
What about Shabbos to Sukkot?
So, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yehuda b'shitas. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yehuda b'shitas Rabbi Yossi Amra. Rabbi Yehuda is saying the same shita as Rabbi Yossi. He wants to say the same thing. The Amar that he holds mechitza tuluya materes. Mechitza tuluya materes. That's like a question mark. Can we say that? Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yochanan said the name of Rabbi Yehuda. No, excuse me, Rabbi Yochanan. No, I'm sorry. I made a mistake. Rabbi Yisai. You have to start 3 lines down the Amid. Amar Rabba Bar Bachana, Rabbi Yochanan. Rabba Bar Bachana said the name of Rabbi Yochanan. You know what Rabbi Yochanan said? Rabbi Yehuda b'shitas Rabbi Yossi Amra. The Amar mechitza tuluya materes. He said they suspended mechitza is good. V'lohi, and it's not true. They don't agree with each other. Loi Rabbi Yehuda sabalak Rabbi Yossi, v'loi Rabbi Yossi sabalak Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda, who says by Shabbos the mechitza works, the hanging mechitza, and does not agree with Rabbi Yossi, who says by Sukkah, and Rabbi Yossi says by Sukkah does not agree with Rabbi Yehuda. Says the Gemara, Loi Rabbi Yehuda sabalak Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yehuda does not hold like Rabbi Yossi. Make a dash. Loi Rabbi Yehuda sabalak Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yehuda does not hold like Rabbi Yossi. And now, Ad can like Rabbi Yehuda Hasam. Ella be'eruv chatzeiros. Rabbi Yehuda only said his halacha by eruv chatzeiros. There was a halacha on Shabbos, but that's make a dash. Dirabanan, because it's dirabanan. No, Rabbi Yehuda says this type of mechitza could work by a dirabanan, right? Yeah. Rabbi Yehuda only says his halacha by a case dirabanan. Aval hacha, but over here now Mishnah. Sukkah d'araisa, sukkah that is a halacha on a d'araisa level, loy. He wouldn't agree that a hanging mechitza could work. Period. Good.
For Shabbos.
But he says by Shabbos it would work because Shabbos is only halacha d'rabanan. But he wouldn't agree by sukkah because sukkah is a halacha d'araisa. V'loi Rabbi Yossi sabalak Rabbi Yehuda, and Rabbi Yossi, who allows a sukkah, would not agree to Rabbi Yehuda. V'loi Rabbi Yossi sabalak Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yossi does not hold like Rabbi Yehuda. Dash. Ad kan like Amar Rabbi Yossi hacha. Rabbi Yossi only said as a halacha here. Ela b'sukkah by sukkah the mitzvahs asay, because sukkah is a mitzvahs asay, meaning it's limited. It's a mitzvahs asay, comma or dash. Aval Shabbos. But Shabbos is a skila. Shabbos is a skila. Even though Rabbi say over here we're only talking about a dirabanan on Shabbos, but Shabbos is chamur. It's serious. So even though it's only dirabanan, it's still we treat Shabbos serious because Shabbos is what you call its origins. It's rooted in skila. So therefore, anything by Shabbos, anything on Shabbos, we treat seriously. Good. The is a skila. The skila loy. He doesn't say that. So Rabbi Yossi said, what are we saying right now? Rabbi Yossi allows a mechitza to work by sukkah, but he would not allow it to work where? Why not? So now the Gemara says, wait, I'm going to show you a case where Rabbi Yossi held of Shabbos, a mechitza on Shabbos. Vim Taimar, let's see, Vim Taimar. And if you're going to ask Maisa about the story, Shanasa B'tzipori, right? It happened in Zipar Alpi Minase. Who allowed it? Question mark.
No, who was part of the story?
Right. It's like you get right. Who did it happen with, or who allowed it to happen, and you write. And Rabbi say, just look right. You have it over there. Api minasa. Who allowed it? Who did it happen with? Now, Rabbi say, write a footnote here, please. Write a footnote over there. Listen for a second. You ready? Write a footnote. There. No, a second. You ready for this?
There where?
Rabbi Yossi, listen to this. Rabbi Yossi was in charge, and they allowed a suspended mechitza on Shabbos. We're going to say the story. But Rabbi Yossi was in charge of Sipari. He was what you call the Av Bezdin, and they allowed a suspended mechitza. So write that footnote. Rabbi Yossi was in charge, and they allowed a suspended mechitza. So you're telling me right now, let's say, just write that in, that will be clear. So you're telling me right now that Rabbi Yossi does not allow a suspended mechitza on Shabbos, only on Sukkah. Eli, you have that note? Rabbi Yossi was in charge, and they allowed a suspended mechitza. You're telling me on Shabbos, and you're telling me right now Rabbi Yossi doesn't allow it. So Al Pi Minaseh, who allowed that story to happen? Let's see what and the Gemara answers. Lo Al Pi Rabbi Yossi. It was not Rabbi Yossi who allowed it. Ella Al Pi Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Shmuel, the son, allowed it. Whoa, the son allowed what the father didn't. We'll discuss that in 1 minute. Let's see what the story was. Umay Maise. What was that story in Sipari? Let's see the story.
Timmy's always the one that's going.
The Chi'aser Avdimi. He's saying good. Rabbi said you had office off. The Chi'aser Avdimi. Now Rabdimi seems to be traveling a lot. Chi'aser Avdimi, right? Rabdimi seems to record a lot of things that he saw.
Rabdimi was the one who came from Eretz Yisrael.
I guess he was going back.
No, from
He made one big trip. You're saying good. He's saying that he always he had a lot to say over.
He went. Was it Rabbi Lezer? Who was there?
Maybe he only went once. This all happened in one time.
He came. He learned a lot, and they came back. I think that's what happened.
Oh, because before you're married, you're supposed to learn a lot in Bava.
What was the story? The Chi'aser Avdimi came, Omar, he said, Pam Achas. One time, what happened was, Rabbi Isai, they used to hide the Sefer Torah in people's houses throughout the week. And they're supposed to bring it to shul before Shabbos. They were hiding during the week because many people wouldn't come necessarily to that shul during the week. Maybe they daven more local, I don't know exactly.
Switch around, so
but they were afraid that the Goyim would steal the Sefer Torah. So everybody would hide it in the houses during the week. And one time they forgot to bring it. You hear this? They forgot to bring it to shul on Erev Shabbos. So let's see what happened. Pamach is one time shachu. They forgot. V'loi hivi'ui Sefer Torah Erev Shabbos. They didn't bring the Sefer Torah from Erev Shabbos. So what happened? Lamachar the next day, pierced through Sedinin.
They took a sheet.
They spread sheets agabe hamudim.
Poles.
Agamudim, right, on poles. On poles.
Where were these poles?
Right.
In Rosh Hashanah?
No.
The basic created the Rosh Hashanah all the way for sure.
Right. So everybody said, look what happened over here.
It has to be.
Right.
No?
How did they?
1 second. Hold on. They 1 second. The next day they spread. What happened was, and I want everyone to look for. We'll stop for just 1 second. We know Rabbi say, look at this. If you have,
That's
I thought this is exciting.
The color.
Rabbi side, just like all over here. This is
Put it on the shirt there.
Rabbi side, we're collecting. We need a screen. I'm gonna put the pictures up on the screen.
An ATV screen? I'll pay for it. If you want a screen, I'll buy it.
Right there, we'll put
I'll sponsor the screen.
Okay.
If you're down, I'm sponsoring it.
So,
Get a little side of football on Sunday night.
Rabbi side, look over here for 1 second. Look over here. You want Rabbi side? Everybody, look over here for a second. It's so geschmack over here. This is Rabbi said. It's Mamish's picture. The thing is straight out of like.
Yeah, mamash. I feel like I'm there.
You feel like you're here. Rabbi said, look over here. Rabbi said, look. The shul is over here. There's a problem that there's a lot of houses that open up to the shul, and you're not allowed to carry from one house or 1 yard to another yard. You can't carry from this house. Let's say the Sefer Torah was over here. In this case over here, the Sefer Torah was hidden in this house.
Yeah,
so you're not allowed to carry from here. Pretend the mechitza is not here. You're not allowed to carry from this house to the shul. You know why?
It doesn't have a
Because there's no Eruv Chatzeros, there's no Shita Mevois.
Oh,
Do you remember that, Rabbi Sai? This is a courtyard which you have a few houses opening up to the same yard.
Where's the center courtyard? By the
No,
shul?
you don't need a center. This is it, right over here.
This middle. Okay, that's
This
the
middle.
And this way also, no?
So what happened was they don't have a Eruv Chatzeros. Wait a second, Yitzi, there's a problem that if we have a few houses, Rabbi Sai, if you have a few houses that open up to a courtyard, you're not allowed to carry from one house to another house because we're worried that basically there's a shared courtyard. We're worried that you're not going there's a concern that which we discussed in the first paragraph, right? That we don't allow you unless you make it that everybody lives in one house. Okay, that's called making an Erev Chatzerev or a Shitif Mavois. Klar, right? Everyone knows that? Mm-hmm. You're not allowed to carry from one property to another property. So what happened was, Rabbi Sai, the Sefer Torah is in a house here. How can you carry the Sefer Torah to the shul? You have one house, two houses, right? You have 1, 2, 3 houses that open up to the same yard. They don't have any Ruvi Chatzeros. They don't have any of that. How can you carry the Sefer Torah? You know what they did? They spread the sheets. Rabbi Sai, now if we spread the sheets, and all you have in the courtyard is the house and the shul. Nobody lives in the shul. So it's a yard for one house.
Why are you allowed to do
Do you hear what happened, Rabbi Sai?
When did they spread it?
I want you to hear what happened.
How?
Rabbi Sai, Eli.
That's what I'm asking. Are
What's
they allowed
that?
to do
How they do it on
this?
Shabbos?
Whoa, 1 second. The Gemara's gonna. That's Shaila. 1 second. Hold on. Everybody, listen for 1 second. Shkech Shmuel. 1 second. Rabbi Sai, if you have a few houses, you all notice this picture. You have, and tomorrow, next time I have to make more pictures, more copies.
But we can only do one in color. The rest will have to be black and white.
Rabbi Sai, you see over here. This is the shul. You have 3 houses that open up to the courtyard. And the Sefer Torah is in one house. You're not allowed to carry out of the Sefer Torah into the courtyard to another house on Shabbos. So, right? You agree with that, Eli? You agree with that?
Can you say it again?
If you have this item in one house, can you carry it to the courtyard without making an Erev Chatzeros?
No, of course not.
You're not allowed to. You can't carry
So
from...
how are they bringing the sheets? What's happening?
Oh, 1 second. Just 1 second.
So he's saying that the shul is nobody lives there, so it's becoming like one courtyard.
1 second. 1 second.
courtyard.
So how do you solve Eli? You're not allowed to carry the Sefer Torah because there's many houses that open up this courtyard. So what do?
But isn't there such a thing? You
put up one puts together something.
That's the, they didn't do that. Rabbi Sai,
How do
Eli
they carry the cheese?
1 second. Oh, Rabbi Sai, wait. Rabbi Shalom, that's the Gemara. Wait the Gemara. Rabbi Sai, 1
I
second.
know what. They had an Erev and they put it up on
1
different
second.
In their courtyard, they could carry it, and then
1
they throw
second.
it onto the.
No.
sheets.
You're not allowed to carry
Anywhere.
Rabbi Sai, 1 second. Hold on. Let 1 second. Eli's asking. That's what we're discussing here. That if they all join and put food in one house, they could. They didn't do that. They didn't do that. So right now, they didn't do that. What do you do? What do you do, Rabbi Say? You know what happened? Rabbi Say, you know what happened? You know what they did? Rabbi Say, when you put food in one house, what does that mean? It means we all live in one house. So Rabbi Say, you know what they did over here?
The Sefer Torah lives in one house.
Now look at this, Rabbi Say.
More important than the food.
Rabbi Say, what do they do? Yitzi so far gavaldik?
Yeah.
You know what they did? They spread the sheets. I'll tell you how they got there. 1 second. They spread the sheets.
The sheets are drying on the roof.
They spread the sheets over here, and they isolated the shul and one house.
Make it like it's one.
And now you only have one residence. A shul, nobody lives there, so it's not a problem.
doesn't have its own.
So the shul has no issue, because the shul is not a living quarters. So right now, everybody lives in which house? The house with the Sefer Torah. And it's 1 yard. You could carry to my own yard. You understand that, everybody say?
What do they need the sheets for then?
Oh, because you got to block out
Make
the
it
other
all
houses.
one
Because if you have everyone's houses, I'm not allowed to carry to the
Oh,
courtyard.
you block.
I'm using the sheets to isolate the house. I'm isolating the house and the shul.
See, that only works. That only works.
He's allowed to carry the sheets.
No, wait.
You have the sheets.
Yehuda, stop it. Everybody stop it carrying the sheets. Just
How does the sheets block that?
That only helps.
the sheets is like I'm making a mechitza.
It's like an indicator that that's it. On the pause,
You're building a mechitza. So right here, It ends here.
And
1
don't
second,
touch
hold
the
on.
floor.
But it's temporary.
Oh, 1 second. Oh, so that would be sufficient. It would be enough. But does everybody hear what happened? You hear what happened?
Yeah.
They brought the sheets, and now everybody said, "Wait, listen to this, everybody, before you scream again." Look, everybody, so look what's happening over here. Says the Gemara now. You Chaim Gamaldik?
No.
Chaim, what's the matter?
Makes no sense to me.
Right, so hold on. 1 second. Wait. 1 second. Have you Sefer? Oh, here we go. Shh. 1 second. 1 second. Hold on. Below have you Sefer Torah every Shabbos. Lamacha, what do they do? Lamacha, the next day, Pirsus Adinin, they spread sheets, agabe mudim, on the poles. They view Sefer Torah, and they brought the Sefer Torah, and you can add the Koroboy, and
They read it.
and they read it, period. And they read from it, exactly. Yeah. So, period. Put a period over there. Now look how you read the next Gemara's question. If everybody's screaming here. Pirsu salka daitach. Could they go and spread it? Mehechen heviyum b'Shabbos. Where did they bring it from on Shabbos? Question mark. Pirsu salka daitach. Could they really spread it? Mehechen heviyum b'Shabbos. Where did they bring it from on Shabbos? No,
Jumping the gun!
Wait till the end.
No, voice side, 1 second.
They found it already.
It's already there. There's no problem.
and magically.
No, 1
If it's
second.
already there, can you put it up? You still can't put it up. You can't
second.
pick it up.
Ella, no, voice side to
It was there
Shema.
already.
Voice side, wait, hold on. Ella, Matzu Sedinim, 1 second, let's get to that. Matzu Sedinim, they found the sheets with Prusin are spread, Al Gabe Amudim, on the poles. 1 second, you didn't hit a punchline here. The view Sefer Torah, the Karabai. Now they brought Sefer Torah, and Rabbi Sai, the Iker Funnel right here. And the hanging sheets
Didn't touch the floor.
Didn't touch the floor,
And it was still good.
And it was still good.
And it was Rabbi
That's
Yossi's son.
and that's Rabbi Yossi's son. This is the whole
It
story.
magically appeared and
One second.
immediately didn't touch
No,
the
he's
floor.
saying like this. He's saying they have it up. They have it like this.
Why can't they? This is a point.
1 second. Nobody said everybody.
Happens to be a sign.
1 second.
Chizit is a sign of the story.
But that's the whole story that we.
Where do you see from this? It's because it's a sign.
Because not touching the floor.
Rabbi said, 1 second.
The whole thing is not touching the floor.
No, that's just a
And
sign
it was
of the
good.
story.
Rabbi said, everybody look at the Rashi.
The whole story is only a side note to show if
You don't
the sheet and then
pizza
that's
and
the floor is
then
good
touch
or
the
not.
floor.
And it was good. So it means on Shabbos. But then it's still not proving that Rabbi Yossi's saying it. It's his son.
It's his
So
son.
Rabbi Yossi's son said about Shabbos.
You don't do it every week. All of a
Rabbi
sudden,
Yossi doesn't know.
Alex,
set it up before.
For the fact that it worked.
we just.
See that what? We see
Yes.
that machitza. Forget the whole story.
I am not the story.
Hey.
Rabbi said.
Forget every week, so they have a thing in there they can ball down.
1 second, hold on. Rabbi said, I want to get this color
The
and
guy's drawing his sheets.
I don't think it more fun than that.
1 second. Rabbi say, let we get the last line in. We got to write this in. Ella, rather, so that's a question mark. How did they bring it on Shabbos? Ella, Matusina Pusin. They came and they found that there were sheets that were spread, and lav dafka for the sake of mechitza. They maybe were drawing al gabi amudim on the poles. They view Sefer Torah b'karo boy.
The Gemara doesn't say
And
that the
what's
sheet
that?
didn't touch the floor.
Rabbi said, look at the first wide line on Rashi, the last word matzu. Rabbi said the first wide line in Rashi, matzu sedina prusin. Vayigavayim in aretz to have lemechitzas tluya. So Rabbi said, add a footnote on the side. Add a footnote. 1 second. Add a footnote on the side of my side. And these mechitzas were hanging. So you see.
No, because there's no roof.
1 second, hold on. 1 second. So you see, Rabbi says, so you see from here that a mechitza tluya, see from here that they allowed a mechitza tluya in Sipari. You see from here that they allowed a mechitza tuluya, a hanging mechitza in Sipari. You got to write that in.
Was
And even though it was Rabbi Yossi, but it was his son who allowed it. So Rabbi say, let's just write that in. And so you see that in Sipari they allowed a hanging mechitza.
But they let the override the Ava Beis Din over there.
But the
That
son
wasn't alive.
I want to discuss that right now. 1 second, hold on. 1 second, hold on. 1 second.
What
One
happened?
second. Shema, 1 second.
Everybody-
Did everybody write that in? Did everybody write that in? Yeah, Rabbi said, because if you don't write it in, you're just gonna have the story. You're gonna miss the punchline over here. Rabbi said, you gotta have that in. And the mechitza, and they allowed, and these curtains didn't reach the floor. So you see, in Sipari they allowed a hanging mechitza. So you can ask. So 1 second, hold on. Let's just have that down, and then let's take a breather.
There's 3 questions. There's 3
Let's
questions.
take a breather,
Here.
Rabbi say.
3 questions, sir.
One second. Hold on. One second.
Why is making oil on Shabbos?
One
That's
second,
you this
hold on.
question.
So,
So
what
oil.
oil?
So
Why are you making oil?
One second.
עכשיו בונה באמצע שבת, now making a chater, going for this. It's like, boy,
No, you're not. You're,
One
your
second,
gas is
Yehuda,
bad.
Yehuda.
That's not a question.
So
There's
he
no
does,
one
right?
there.
One second. I told everybody.
No, Pakakachaloi.
Look, I know nobody can calm down. You can't calm anybody down here.
Hey, so toilet.
The boy say,
It was there.
You just made something from the Shus to Rabin.
Tishma. The boy say, I
So what's
want
the chiddush?
1 second.
She's doing the Shabbos.
Everybody, I want to laugh. One second.
Exactly.
I want to say one thing over
Just
here.
a story.
This was a story.
Why, Yaakov? Why? I think it's that's killing.
Okay, I want to just address two things. Reb Chaim is Machaven. One second. Reb Chaim is Machaven. One second. I beg you, listen for a minute. You no more coffee. Wait. 1 second. I want to tell you something. Everybody say this is the way you do it before you come to the shia 9 o'clock. You drink a coffee. This is the way you do it. Everybody say, I want to tell you something. What's going on here? Listen. What's going on. I want to tell you something. Okay, everybody say, listen. The Gemara is only bothered. Reb Chaim is saying a very good point. Don't scream, please. Everybody say 1 minute. Reb Chaim is saying a very good point. Reb Chaim and Yehuda is saying the Gemara is bothered. How did they bring it on Shabbos? There's another issue that making that in Erevin they explain the issue. This is the problem. Not that there's a problem bringing it. How do they hang it? Because that's making a mechitza on Shabbos. Anytime you make.
But the Gemara clearly says that it was hanging.
So I 1 second.
Not the problem of hanging. Right now, I just made it now. Right.
No. One second. No. Tishma.
Now we're going Arab. We're going terrorist here. I'm going to stand back.
Keep PG.
No, I know it was there the whole time, but they pulled it on Shabbat. How did they not say for let me stop?
They did it.
They pulled it.
It was there. Matsu. It was there. They found it.
It wasn't this.
Mo Goldstein, where are you, Mo?
Where you at? No, so the answer was that no, they didn't. They weren't pirates. It was there. They found it.
1 second, Yehuda. Everybody stop right now. Stop 1 second, please. I beg you.
Pause the video.
Pause
the station.
Everybody say, listen to this. Yehuda wants Yehuda. Rabbi say,
I understand you.
1 second. 1 second. I will tell you something. The Gemara thought initially that they brought it on Shabbos. So if they don't scream. So Rabbi say, if they bring it on Shabbos, there's two problems. One is bringing it, and one is spreading it. Stop 1 second. So if you tell me the issue is that you're not allowed to bring it on Shabbos, so then they might answer it very good. They found it spread. Rabbi say, but if you told me that issue was opening an oil, the way you can explain the answer is that listen to this, Rabbi say, you are not allowed to create an oil on Shabbos. You're allowed to add on to an oil. Everybody say, listen to this. I want to tell you an interesting shiloh. I'll give you an example. Like we discussed, we once mentioned a carriage on Shabbos. You want to put on the water part of the carriage, the water protect, the thing that protects that blocks the water. So. If your carriage wasn't, this is the way most places can hold. If your carriage was never open on Shabbos, the roof wasn't open before Shabbos came in, the top of the carriage, and now come Shabbos, it's raining, you open the roof and then you add on the plastic. You can't add on a plastic because you're creating a new oil. But they say that I don't know who says that. Be careful. If you open up your carriage a little bit before Shabbos, the roof. Then you can add on because you're only adding on to a temporary oil. 1 second. Rabbi say 1 second and last thing. 1 second. So there's two ways to understand the issue. I went with the Gemara. Our Gemara understands the question as you're not allowed to bring it on Shabbos. And my answer is no. It was there already before Shabbos, and the whole thing is just that you see in Sipari they allowed it, and Rabbi Yossi was the Abbez in Sipari. You just told me before that we don't know. Rabbi Yossi doesn't allow on Shabbos to make a oil arai. What's the Gemara's answer? The Gemara's answer is that this was that it's true. There was a story in Sipari where they allowed a hanging mechitza on Shabbos, but that was not Rabbi Yossi. Rather, who was that? That was Rabbi Yossi's son. That was who was his name? And the oil was bothered. It seems that the son was going against the father's minhag. It was his son. His son who allowed it.
He wasn't going. Why was he going? He wasn't going.
Because Rabbi Yossi doesn't allow Shabbos.
Shabbat skila.
I don't like the shiloh. Kids go against their fathers all the time.
So Rabbi Yossi, not Rabbi Yossi. So Baisai, what they want to answer.
Oh, why do you like Rashi?
Wait a second, I'll tell you. The Sefer called Shiurim Mitzionim B'Halacha, very popular. I think his name is Rabbi Brown. I think if I remember correctly, he says that there's a shaila in what if your father has a certain minog that he paskins regularly. If your father has a minog that he paskins regularly, that this way, and the question presents itself often, and he says this psak. You're not allowed to argue on that. But if it's a shaila that comes up, how often something like this come up? Once a year, once every 2 years. That's not an established minhag of a father. It's not an established derech. Because it's not doesn't look like you're going against your father because you don't regularly hear that psak from the father. The father once a year gave a psak like that. So therefore, it's not anything wrong going passing the other way. Because being that your father didn't pass like this on an orphan basis, it wasn't like your father was established that he held this way. You understand? And therefore, how often did something like this come up? But everybody say we have to stop over here. Tomorrow gets weiter exciting, and shkech everybody for coming out. There's nothing like this. This is partial like fire over here. You know?
We're just missing Mo.
I just want to say, Rabbi